All right, gentlemen, here we go. Last talk. Marching orders. I like to call it marching orders. What do you think so far? Good conference? Yay, nay? Yeah. I got some advice for the good deacon over there if he's listening. He's not listening. I have advice for the good Deacon Harold Sievers over there. Deacon, my advice to you is you really got to come out of your shell, man. You're too withdrawn. You got to stop keeping it in, my friend. Let it out, brother. Let it out. It's incredible. I love working with him. Okay, couple things. First, before I forget, I got two things I'm going to promote this time. One, James mentioned it earlier, Into the Breach. Knights of Columbus table back in the corner. They ask for a simple $1 donation. That's not much. This is a fantastic exhortation written by Bishop Olmsted out of Phoenix, Arizona. Bishop Olmsted used to be a priest in the Lincoln Diocese where I'm from, Lincoln, Nebraska. So I like to brag about how I knew him when he was just a young priest and I was about this big. And he'd come over to my house periodically, and my family bring him over for dinner. You know, like a lot of people bring priests over. Bishop Olmsted, great man, great exhortation, Into the Breach. The whole point of Into the Breach is him saying that we've got a breach in the wall. We need men to get in there. Okay? There's a breach in the wall of our faith. Society needs men to get in there. And so Catholic men need to rise up and engage in this. So it fits very much in line with what this conference is about, and a lot of men's conferences across the country are about, and that is trying to wake up that fighting spirit in men. You think about the imagery for this conference. The imagery is always the knight, like we see here. We always see a knight with the sword and so forth. I love these images. This is what has become so common for men's conferences all over the place, is the knight with the sword or weapon of some sort. Now, normally when we look at these types of images, we will say, you know, this is how we need to be. We need to be prayer warriors, spiritual warriors. Look at this, the sword, the weapons of spiritual battle. And that's all 110% true, no question about it. But it doesn't stop with just that. I like to say, don't forget, these knights, they knew how to use those swords too. So it wasn't to them just one aspect of manhood. And I've been saying this over and over so far, and I think the bishop says that in here as well. We need to be physically engaged in this fight as well in different ways depending upon what we're called to. But one of the things I think that is a problem when it comes to manhood is we've got one or the other when it comes to certain aspects of manhood, the physical or the spiritual. Here's an example. I've been traveling, like I said, for 27 years. Talking all over the country, parish mission type events, conferences like this, men only, families, Eucharistic, Marian conferences, you name it. And one of the things that constantly comes up to me when it comes to girls or women, young ladies in particular, high school, college age, young ladies, will come up to me and they'll say things. If I've given a talk, for example, about manhood or about relationships or marriage, a lot of times ladies will come up and they'll say something to this effect. I'll sum it up. This is probably the clearest and most direct way it was ever put to me was one particular girl, young lady, after we taped a show down at EWTN for Life on the Rock. I used to co-host Life on the Rock for 8 years, a TV show on EWTN. And she came up to me after the show and she said, Mr. Barry, I got to talk to you about something. I said, yeah, what's that? Well, during the show, we were addressing manhood and relationships and so forth. And she said, why is it that men seem to fall into one of two categories, most men? I said, what's that? Well, the first, you got the guy over here, this category. He's a nice guy. He's prayerful. He might know scripture. He's very, very gentle. He's a great guy you can really depend on to walk you across the street and open a door for you. But I feel like if somebody broke in to harm me, he'd hide behind me. That's what she said. Or you got the guys over here that are tough and burly and strong. You know, they wear a lot of plaid and cut down trees. Lumberjack feel, right? They're big jocks, they're athletes. They think they got the gun show and the six-pack abs and the hulking physique, but they have no faith. She says, why can't we have a mix? And she's not talking specifically, and I don't think any of the ladies who've ever asked me about this are talking specifically that they want men that are big and hulking. But what they're saying is the physical strength, the physical durability, the perseverance, and the spiritual that guides it. There's women out there that are longing for this, dying for this, praying for this. I know this because I've heard it from them. They want to know that men are spiritual first, but that when they're called upon physically, they're ready to go. That is a critical aspect of manhood that does not get addressed enough, in my opinion, especially at conferences and Catholic circles and such, because, as I mentioned last night, we've fallen into this idea that the holier you become, the more passive you become. The gentler you become, the more you're willing just to say, hey, bad guys broke in. Sweetheart, we're going to die for the Lord. Kids, are you ready? Here they come. Everybody just lay down and let him take you. Now, St. Thomas More, and if anybody knew about martyrdom, it was St. Thomas More. He died in 1535. He was the chancellor to King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII is the founder of the Anglican Church. The reason the church broke off, King Henry VIII broke off, is because Henry wanted a divorce and a remarriage. Actually, he wanted to divorce Catherine and have it annulled. He wanted the Pope to annul the marriage, say it never happened. It was never a valid marriage, so he could take Anne Boleyn as his wife because he had the hots for Anne Boleyn. She was looking pretty good, right? And the Pope said, can't do, King, this is a valid marriage to Catherine. Henry said, well, then I take matters into my own hands, and I will be now the head of the church in England. And everybody must take an oath. And the oath is that you swear allegiance to the king and what the king does, what he wants, and so forth. And this divorce, and this sham was a divorce is the sham of a marriage, and I'm going to marry Anne Boleyn, and any child from her will be an heir to the throne, and blah, 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 blah. And if you don't take the oath, you'll be imprisoned or killed. And a lot of people died. Carthusian monks and a few people here, civilians here and there, but most of the bishops went along with it, except Fisher. Bishop Fisher became a cardinal. And actually, when he was in prison, when Cardinal Fisher was in prison, that's when the Pope made him a cardinal, and King Henry's response was, go ahead, may the Pope make him a cardinal. Let them send him the mitre, the hat to put on him. We'll place it on his shoulders. Because we're going to cut his head off. So Henry was not a good man when it came to these things. He demanded obedience. Well, Thomas More did everything he could to survive. He was clever, he was smart, he resigned his position as chancellor. He ends up being thrown into the Tower of London for 15 months. Eventually, he's executed, he's beheaded. But the point I'm getting at is Thomas More, as wise as he was and as smart as he was, said this: we must use our wits to do everything we can to survive in this world. And if God closes all the doors and we have no escape, then we die like champions. Martyrdom. But there's a lot of people who go through a life now who are growing in the faith and such, and they will simply say, well, we're just ready to be martyrs no matter what. We're just ready to go. Now, last night I brought this out when I talked about I trust Jesus to the point where I don't do anything. I just trust Jesus. So I'm not going to do things to prepare for any kind of an onslaught or trial or civil unrest or whatever, because I'm just going to trust Jesus. And I say, if you're going to do that, then carry it to the next level, the nth degree, which means don't get up and go to work tomorrow. Or Monday, not tomorrow. Don't work on Sunday. Don't get up and go to the kitchen. Trust that Jesus will have angels bring you food in bed. Right? The next time your kid is sick or falls or breaks their arm or leg and they say, I'm hurt, I need help, just say, just trust Jesus, he'll heal it. And see how that goes over with your wife. The bottom line is you get it. We live in a natural world. We have to respond in natural ways to natural things around us. So when we're told by great leaders like Bishop Olmsted in that booklet, Into the Breach, in this exhortation, the need for us to actively engage in the faith, actively get out there and fill that breach, that hole, that gap, we need to realize that there's a natural response we have to something like that. And we can't sit back and just claim, well, we know who wins in the end, so we're not going to worry about doing anything. Well, there's something to all the signs of the times around us pointing to the fact that we haven't done enough, therefore we're in the mess that we're in. All right, so I believe in trusting Jesus. Don't get me wrong on that. But I believe that Jesus put us in a natural world, and because of that, we have to respond. One of my favorite memes, if you call it, I think a meme, who came up with this? We came up with Facebook and social media. Now we come up with new words like a meme or a GIF. Or is it GIF or GIF? I've heard different pronunciations of it. GIF? I don't know. Who cares? But one of my favorite images is a halo jumper, this soldier doing a halo jump. You know, it's like 15,000 to 30,000 foot jump. They got the whole breathing apparatus on. You know, my buddy Chuck Bowe, I keep mentioning Chuck Bowe. Chuck Bowe has done like over 500 or 600 jumps. He's just, this guy is like, how many of you have been halo jumps? He said, you know, like 300 of them, and, you know, full breathing apparatus. He says, military jumps are not as fun as civilian jumps. The military knows how to make everything unfun. because it's uncomfortable. You're airborne, right? My friend here, airborne, served Vietnam. And the military knows how to make everything uncomfortable and awkward and just difficult, just a pain in the you-know-what, yeah. So, but here's this great picture of this guy doing a halo jump. He's coming out of the plane. He's all stretched out, fanned out, and he's coming down. Here's the picture, and it says on the top of the picture, a little girl in a foreign land prayed that God would send angels to stop the bad guys. Underneath it says, ETA 2 minutes. I love it. The next time your house is on fire, please, Lord, send help. Fire truck shows up. Thank you for sending help. The next time someone breaks in your house, you call 911. Hopefully you're already engaging in it, but if you have to, but you call 911, they show up. Thank you, Lord, you sent somebody. Puerto Rico, praying that God will send angels. Well, the angels happen to be the Marines and the Navy, and you name it, the FEMA organization sends all the goods and supplies down. Whatever it may be, you know what that's like. You live here where you have things like fires. Your state's been on fire for 7 weeks lately, right? I mean, God works through ordinary means. Again, I've said this throughout this conference, we need to be prepared and better trained for that. Because it falls on us. Now, if I were to say to you, and we don't know this for a fact, but sooner or later I wouldn't be surprised. This may be the last opportunity we all have to be inspired and motivated by a conference like this to do something. And then we walk out of here and then it's on our shoulders to decide what we're going to do. Remember the last talk. Emotion, inspiration, and motivation are like emotion. They come and they go. Discipline is what I want in the foxhole with me. The day-to-day, when we walk out of here, what are you going to commit to? What are we going to commit to make our lives better, be better men down the road? What decisions will each of us make? Confession more frequently, rosary daily, mass more frequently. If you're not consecrated to our Blessed Mother, do the 33-day consecration of de Montfort. Do you have any books on consecration over here, my friend at the rosary table? Consecration books? 33-day consecration books. De Montfort by chance? De Montfort. Awesome. St. Louis de Marie de Montfort, Maximilian Kolbe, Father Bill Gately, Morning Glory. These are different types of consecration books. It takes 33 days. You do prayers each day and readings. And on the 33rd day, you give your life entirely consecrated to the Blessed Mother. The scapular is an expression of a consecration to Mary, for example. Okay, these are things we need to commit to. So we all have to make those decisions. What am I going to do to commit, to put this into practice, and then discipline myself to make it happen? Something else I'm really going to encourage you, though, because those are all great spiritual actions that need to take place. I'm going to ask you to consider something else, too. What are you going to pass on to your loved ones, your wife, your children, your grandchildren, to train them to be better prepared? And not just spiritually. That should be a given, that our wives and children and grandchildren know about the rosary, that they know about the scapular. And if you don't know about them, that's why the table back here and the table over here have materials, books on these things. Rosaries, scapulars are gone, we've heard, which is a great sign. Okay, how about back here, the End of the Breach book that we have, the exhortation from Bishop Olmsted. Make sure you get a copy for $1 from the Knights of Columbus back here. Okay, my table over here, Deacon is packing stuff up, but you've got some of his stuff. You can go to his website, get gear and material. I still got a few things on my table. Okay, what are we going to do to train others under our care? That's my point. Because our children, our wives, are in the thick of the fight, spiritually speaking and physically speaking. Now, the next level is, what are we going to do to train them even physically to be prepared? How many of you men, no show of hands, work hard to make sure that you've got food on the table, food in the cupboard, electricity is running through the house, water is coming through the house, you make sure you got a good roof over the head. When it gets cold, you want warmth. When it's hot, you want air conditioning. You put gas in the car. You make sure the cars work. And these are all basic things that fall largely on the shoulders of a man to care for his family. Those are good things, and we should be doing those things. But sometimes in those areas, I think we fall short. One of the areas in particular is, I mentioned last night again some of this, jumper cables. How many of your wives and your children know how to jumpstart a car? And don't raise your hand to that necessarily. If you want to, you can. I don't want to make anybody feel bad. Because hands will go up, yeah, we did. And the guy's sitting there going, sure, yeah, okay. Because I don't want to look stupid out here, right? My buddies are raising their hands and I don't. Okay, do your wives and kids know how to change tire? Flat tire. Okay, some don't even know how to put gas in a car. I know teenagers out there, oh no, dad just fills up the tank and then I drive the car. In Oregon, they do it for you. It's illegal to pump your own gas here? Okay, what the hell do you do when you leave Oregon? None of you know what to do you? What is this? I don't know, Mabel. Honey, what should we do? I don't know. Call for people in Oregon to come and help us. It's illegal to pump your own gas here? So what do I do when I fill up before I drive down to California tomorrow? Scratch my head and stare at it and say, come on, baby, get in there on your own. Go. That's incredible. I'm sorry, that's incredible. Can we make ourselves any softer and any more wussified than this sort of stuff? That's the answer. It's Oregon. And you guys are setting precedent nobody else can understand. Dick and Harold, how do you still live out here, man? You go all over the country. What'd you say, sir? What'd you say? That's it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so is it illegal to change your own tire if you got a flat? That's why your wives and kids don't know. Okay. All right. Yeah, I was in Washington, D.C. Is it illegal to carry pepper spray out here? Okay, good. All right, so what I have in my pocket, because I don't want to pull this out unless it was, okay? I keep this with me everywhere I go. It's just a small little, like a 6-foot fogger, okay? So close quarters, I can fog somebody if I have to. I don't go anywhere without this. I was in Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago. Lady sitting across the table at this dinner. A bunch of us were having about 15 of us at the Rosary Conference out there, Rosary Rally. And this subject came up. She was talking about her daughter. Oh, my daughter's 20. She likes to go jogging. You know, she's an attractive young lady. I'm worried about her when she's out. I said, well, make sure you get her something like this. And I said on the table. The lady's husband said, that's illegal here. What? Well, you can't carry pepper spray in D.C. Oh, yeah, D.C. Like, you don't need pepper spray out here. You should be all armed out here. I mean, with handguns and such, because this is like a lot of crime happens in D.C., right? And I'm not talking about politics. We know about that. I'm talking about violent crime. Oh, yeah, we know it happens. But no, you're not supposed to carry. I can't believe that. What's happening to us here? So at the very least, you know how to use your hands, okay? Because if you think about this, every 2 minutes, roughly, 90 seconds to 2 minutes in America, a woman is assaulted. All right? Every 13 seconds in America, a home is broken into. Most of us respond with, we're just going to call 911. Now, last night, I think I mentioned my buddy, my friend, or the guy that I was talking to in Florida, right? The Long Island detective. Remember that? For those who might not have been here, here's the story. I was talking to a group of men down in Florida a couple of years ago. And I was talking about some of these basic things. About 25 guys in the group. This one guy looked kind of grovelly in the corner. At the end, he said, I got to say something. I said, yeah, what's that, sir? He said, I'm a Long Island detective, retired Long Island detective. I said, I bet you've seen a lot. He said, yep, I've even seen brains splattered on a wall. He said, I can tell you, everything you're saying right now is absolutely 100% true. You need to be your own first responder. He said, 95% of the time when we get called out on something, we're there to clean up the mess and file the report. By the time you call 911 and wait for them to show up, you've got what, 2, 3, 4 minute response time in the average city situation? Where I am out in the country, it's probably 15, 20 minutes if they show up at all. You're calling the county sheriff. What's going to happen in the 2 to 3 minutes or the 15 to 20 minutes? And so we need to have an idea what we're going to do. And I say it's just as serious as making sure you've got food on the table and electricity flowing through the house. You and I as men need to have a plan to get our families out if there's a fire, deal with a bad guy if they break in, learn how to change a tire, learn how to jump start a car, and somehow figure out how to pump gas if you're in another state. Amazing, amazing. It's a new one. So basic plan. Now, it's funny because it's one of the things that is the most difficult thing, I think, for a lot of guys to accept is, okay, I've got to learn how to instruct my family on basics, such as how to get out of the house if there's a fire. Well, there's stuff on websites for this. There's FEMA stuff out there on how to be prepared, how to store food, how to store water, how to prepare yourself for some sort of defensive situation if you need to. I'm a big fan of everybody having some sort of protection in your home. If you're not a big fan of firearms, I am a big fan of firearms. If you're not a big fan of firearms, you should have pepper spray, baseball bat, frying pans, fire extinguishers work as well. Things that can defeat or stop or subdue a threat that might be trying to rob you, rape, and kill your family. And if we don't think that that's serious, we are not paying attention to the stories that happen regularly in the news. And most of the time we say, well, it's somebody else or it's somewhere else. And then when it happens in our neighborhood, what do you always hear in the news when it happens? Something bizarre happens, like a shooting or something. This is such a quiet neighborhood. I don't know how this could ever happen here. Unless it's downtown Chicago. And then it's, oh yeah, this happens all the time. And we're okay with that too for some reason. We, meaning society as a whole. We don't get outraged by those things, but we know that this happens. So I'm a big fan of the spiritual and the physical prep. Now, I am starting to go into more churches and parishes around the country and talk about these particular items. I did this a few weeks ago, as I mentioned, back in my hometown, Lincoln, Nebraska. And the 75 guys that day, I gave 2 talks that morning. The first talk was on spiritual prep, rosary, scapular, adoration, confession, mass. This should be a must. It is a must. It should be done every day of our lives in one way, shape, or form. We should be engaging in the spiritual fight. But then the second talk was about more physical prep. After the talks were done, and we went to lunch in the cafeteria, I had my table set up like that one back there where my CDs and DVDs are back there, right? Okay. Guess what? The only thing, the 30 to 35, 40 guys that came up to talk to me off and on for about an hour afterwards, the only thing they wanted to talk about was the physical prep. And one guy said this to me after a lot of the guys drifted and faded away. He and a couple other guys were there. He said, so Doug, when it comes to, teaching a family how to change a tire and jumpstart a car, things like that you're talking about, yeah, I think it's important. Because you teach them how to problem solve something rather than just, oh no, the tire's flat, I need to call help. Because the cell phone might not work, might take a while for you or AAA to get there, something, right? Remember the old days, guys, when we didn't have cell phones? And we had to do it on our own? Or you had to actually walk somewhere? Okay? I'll get to the walking thing in a moment. But the guy says to me, what if we ourselves don't, quite, and he was very kind of sheepish about it. And I said, you mean if you don't know how to change a tire? He said, well, yeah, that's kind of, yeah. He's worried a couple guys standing next to him. Whoa, can you pump gas? Not in Oregon. Yeah. So I said, then this is what you do. And I turned to the guy running the men's group. I said, Tim, you need to start putting on, they have like a weekly meeting at this men's group at this parish. If any of you are involved, anybody have parishes with weekly or monthly meetings, men's groups? Okay, some of you do, awesome. Okay, here's what I recommend. Then you start putting on classes where you start, or if, I don't care if you don't have a weekly meeting or not, go to your pastor, go to your Knights of Columbus Council. We got a lot of knights in here probably. Start putting these classes on and say, hey, we're gonna do something special. We're gonna do a little thing in the parking lot. We're gonna have cars, a couple cars, how to jump start cars and how to change tires over here. Our wives and children are gonna be taught how to do this. All right, and you know what some men say to that? Oh, that's a lot of work, Doug. Our meetings don't do, what do you do at your meeting? Well, we talk and then we eat. What do you eat? Donuts. And what do you talk about? Donuts. And in Oregon, how to pump gas. I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I'm a third-degree Knight. Knights of Columbus have dropped the ball in some of this area stuff, though, guys. We have. You know what the Knights of Columbus are known best for? We're known for Tootsie Rolls, pancakes, fish fries, fundraising for pro-life groups, and selling insurance. And those are all great things. I got nothing against them. But that's kind of what we're known for. I told my boys a couple years ago, yeah, I'm going to third-degree Knight now. My son said, oh, they're going to dub you with a spatula? I said, wait a minute, hold on a second. He said, oh, come on, Dad, really? Seriously, you know what I mean? Yeah, I get it, I know what you mean. Why aren't we putting on meetings to train our family how to do the basic things? And that's just the basics like changing tires and jump-start a car and so forth. And how about self-defense stuff? Why aren't we teaching our daughters and our young sons how to protect themselves? Why aren't we teaching them how to stand even in a conflict? On my table over there, I have a number of DVDs, and almost all of them are gone except one stack. And the stack that is not gone yet, and I hope and pray you guys will respond after this talk, is Battle Ready 101. Battle Ready 101 is a self-defense instructional DVD that is basic, physical and spiritual. It's a DVD that gets used a lot of times when parents do buy it, they'll buy it for their high school kid, their college kid who's off in college and they don't want them getting in trouble. Because in college, that's where you hear about date rape all the time, right? You hear about guys getting beat up by somebody, bullies, whatever, happens in high school too. One of the problems with, when it comes to the way our young people live these days is a lot of this. This is their life. They walk down the sidewalk with their phone. They cross streets this way. They go through parking lots this way. Now, I've seen many videos from bad guys who have to do community service videos because they're in prison. And these are the guys who are in prison for mugging or raping type situations. And this is what a lot of them will say. The number one place that they will look for women to attack is a grocery store parking lot because women do most of the shopping for grocery stores, right? The other place is office parking lots because a lot of women walking out at the end of the day, walking through the parking lot. What are they normally wearing? High heel shoes, things like this. They're wearing dress shoes. They're at the office. A lot of them are on their phone. They're getting hustled into their car. And the third place is women's bathrooms. Yeah, men will attack women in women's bathrooms. That's where they'll assault them or where they'll abduct them from. But let's just look at grocery store parking lots as an example. Women walking through grocery store parking lots. Think about your wife. Think about your daughter right now in particular. And when they go shopping, are they down on their phone? When they get out of the car, are they busy working through the purse and everything? Are they looking around at all? Or are they busy doing all this sort of stuff and walking through the parking lot? Well, the bad guy, if in case there is a bad guy there, and it does happen, remember, every approximately 2 minutes a woman is assaulted in America. So maybe the bad guy's off on the side, and they say this, we're off just watching. One guy who is known for breaking into over 50,000 cars, he said, and robbing people. He said, I'd go to the park. I'd sit there with my coffee and my newspaper. And he said, yeah, people jogging by, waving, hey, how you doing? They think I'm just a nice guy. He says, I'm looking for my next victim. I'm paying attention to who's jogging, how far they get from their car. They have earbuds in, which means they can't hear very well now. And so I know they're far enough away. I walk over with a brick, smash the window, reach under, pull the purse out, because I saw when she pulled up, she did something like this, because she's pushing something under the seat with her feet. They pay attention to all this stuff. It's how people get mugged and robbed. People who case houses, the bad guys, they case a house. You know what houses they look for? They want houses that don't have motion lights, don't have dogs, don't have any sort of noise or activity going on, because they know they'll walk past the house, and if the motion light goes off, okay, then they'll move on maybe to another house. They get close to a house and a dog starts barking inside, they'll move to another house. Okay, they do this. It happens. Sometimes it leads to rape and even sometimes murder. So what we did in this DVD is we talked about how to even go through a parking lot. How to not be on your phone as you're walking out with your groceries. Oh, yeah, so anyway, there we were, yeah. Set your groceries down here, yeah. Open the car door here, yeah. And then you come back here, put your bags in here, and you're completely distracted. Okay, you should never get out of the car without that phone being put away. You get out of the car, close the door, you're looking around a little bit. It's called situational awareness. In fact, a former Marine put this out, four color code system for when it comes to basic self-defense. Number 1 is white, 2 is yellow, 3 is orange, and 4 is black. Okay, some say there's a 5th, red. I'll explain that in a minute. It's more of a comical thing, but I think it makes a good point. White is oblivious. You're going through life completely oblivious. You're down on your phone. You're paying attention to nothing. True story, 16-year-old girl standing on the corner at an intersection at a red light with her brother. She's on her phone like this. Cars are going by, completely oblivious to her surroundings. For whatever reason, she thought the light turned, and she started to walk. Was hit by a car and killed. So people who go through life paying no attention. Another true story, girl walking down a street in New York City. She fell into an open manhole cover. Okay? She got hurt pretty bad. This family sued the city. City said, what do you mean? Well, the manhole cover was open. They said, we had orange cones all around the manhole. Well, we didn't see the orange cones, but they were there. She wasn't looking because she was on her phone. Walked right past them, fell right in the hole. We hear these stories. We think, well, what's going on with us that we're not paying attention to what's around us? Think of your loved ones and talk with them about this. This DVD addresses that stuff. Walking through a parking lot, situational awareness. You get out of the car door closes, you're looking around, you're just paying attention to a little bit there. You're looking back at your car. One of the things you want to do is you want to look and see if somebody's sitting in a car somewhere down the line, because the bad guys will sit a ways off. You know what one of the number one things is? All the self-defense experts that I'm friends with or talk with all over the country say, and I've read this countless places from former CIA to FBI guys, in fact, one of the number one things that can diffuse a potential attack is making eye contact with someone. Because if I'm walking along and I see you, and if I'm a young lady, I'm not going to look at you and get all alluring. Hey, big boy. Because that's what women say. Well, I don't want to look and make it look like I'm trying to, draw him to me. No, you just got to look at him. It's like, I see you, okay? Right there, yeah, I see it, okay. Less likely he's going to try to attack now. This has all been proven. Bad guys say it too. They say, yeah, if they get out of the car and someone looks and they see us there, we're not thinking that's an easy target. As my friend Chuck Bow, I'm going to start referring to Chuck Bow, my 30-year EOD black belt, this is the guy, man, boy, talk about training you. This is one way he trained me. Let me jump to him for a minute here. Took me in the backyard. I told you the 3 guys, jump him, right? I tell you that story. One time I'm sparring with him, right? Open-handed sparring. Smack, 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 smack. He's getting the best of me, right? Smack, smack. He kept saying to me, don't drop your guard, Doug. No matter what, don't drop your guard. Okay, smack, smack. He's right in there. Don't drop your guard. Okay, crack, smack. No matter what, don't drop your guard. All right, all right. Finally, he steps back, puts his arms down, and says, okay, I want to show you something. What do you think I did? I dropped my guard because I thought there was no attack there. So he leans back. I'm going to show you something, Doug. My arms went down. Yeah, what is it? No matter what, this does not look like a threatening posture, does it? Hands are up. No matter what, don't you ever, boom, and he hit me in the eye with his finger. Don't you ever, boom, drop your guard. Oh, man. I said, what was that? He said, best lesson I can ever teach you. I said, yeah, I see. Just not out of this eye. So then he said, okay, now take your hand down. And my eye was just watering like crazy. So here I'm standing there, and he says, he puts his hand down here, and he says, now tell me when you see my hand coming up towards your face. Well, I didn't see it till it was here because I was blinded in one eye. He said, why were you blinded? He said, because I dropped my guard. Why'd you drop your guard? Because I didn't think there was an attack coming. He said, situational awareness, man. Keep your guard up. He said, you move through a parking lot, you move down a sidewalk like you have purpose. Look like you're sure of what you're doing. Pay attention to what's around you. Rule number 1, situational awareness. That's actually yellow. 1, again, first one, white, oblivious to anything around you. You're not paying attention to anything. 2, yellow, situational awareness. You're generally aware of your situation at all times. I'm paying attention to my exits. I just saw the lady walk out of the door over here with the containers in her hands. Right? You're paying attention. You know, there's a couple guys at the table over here looking at the rosary material. The guy back there just turned his back on me because he doesn't like what I'm saying. Oh, he's getting something to drink? Okay. Just kidding, man. It's aware. Just be aware. You're paying attention. You're observing. Here's a true story. A former CIA agent was talking about this, a book he wrote. He was walking down a sidewalk with his wife, and a guy starts following off to the side. He said the guy was at the exact same cadence as him. He said, that's not human nature. Most people don't walk at the same speed, right, by each other. There's always a little speed difference because it's almost as an awkwardness there, right? In my personal space, you're right there. Hey, do I know you? No. You're kind of freaky. Could you back up a little? Right? So he said, I noticed this guy was right there. Are you serious? 10 minutes, Phil? That fast? Oh, man, give me 10 minutes, guys. I got to hurry up here. Okay, so anyway, he gets to a street corner with his wife. He looks over, sees the guy there. He's assuming there's going to be some sort of an attack of some sort. So what he does is he pulls out what he keeps on hand all the time, and I keep one of these with me as well, and it's called a tactical pen. You ever heard of a tactical pen? Tactical pen, it's an actual pen. This particular one I have has a flashlight on it. Okay, it's a great little pen. This is a hard point right here. You have to unscrew this cap to make it the actual pen. This right here is a weapon, though. But it looks just like a pen. He pulled his pen out, kept it in his hand right here, and then he turned to the guy, and he looked at him, and he raised his hand up, and the hand was to fill space between potential bad guy and good guy. He's got something between now, so he's not vulnerable here. And he looks at him, and he says, hey, pal, you got the time? And by looking at him and saying, do you got the time? And he had his pen in one hand here, and he's looking at his watch here. The guy looked at him, yeah, gave him the time, and the guy turned and walked away right away. Okay, it's psychological. Situational awareness followed by psychological self-defense, no altercation. Second is, the third code, 3, is orange. Orange means that you are now engaged in some sort of, the situation has ramped up to a particular moment where something's happening. Okay, so situational awareness right now, I'm paying attention to the situation. We go to orange if all of a sudden somebody comes in the door and starts screaming, Allah Akbar. Now we've gone to orange immediately because now we're all focused there. Now you're getting ready for whether or not you got to go to black. And black is engagement. Now you're engaged in the fight or the crisis of some sort. Could be a fire, but you're engaged now. That's the 4th is black. Most people do not train yellow, orange, or black. They don't. Most people go through life in white, and when something happens, they jump to the 5th one, red. It's called panic, right? Most people don't pay any attention to the middle. So when your wives or children are going through life and there's some sort of a crisis that might all of a sudden strike, are they prepared in any way to respond appropriately? Now, one of the things, I got to do this very quickly because of time, that's on this DVD, is we talk about the situational awareness, we talk about paying attention to your surroundings, we show examples of walking through a parking lot. I have different people in the video that walk through a parking lot, a man, a girl, going through how to walk into a house the right way, not on your phone in case somebody's hiding around the corner and they're going to jump you when you're going in, which happens, or sometimes you walk in a house and you surprise a bad guy, which happens sometimes, and you got to have an idea what to do. When you walk in a house, you should be paying attention to the sound of your house. Just take a second. If something feels odd, just listen for a moment. You know your house. You know the creaks. Listen. If everything sounds all right. If you got a dog there, the first floor, that dog better be coming to see you and greet you. You got to know it's a normal situation. That's paying attention. Those are just good training overall. You're operationalizing your faith in these ways by being safe that way. Okay, but if it has to come to an actual physical altercation of some sort, you're just going to say to your wife, well, just trust Jesus if somebody's trying to assault you. Or you're going to say, no, this is what you do, sweetheart. This is where you strike him. And how do you stand? How do you engage in it? That's important. Can I ask 15-year-old right there? Can you come down here for a second? Yeah. I like picking on the teenagers for this. Okay, just hop up here real quick. Do you have any self-defense training at all? Taekwondo for a while? Good. Okay, this will help then. You'll have an idea already then. Okay, let's imagine this is a standard operating stance a lot of us take. This could be a situation, if I'm a bad guy and I'm going to attack him in some way, this is the worst way in the world to stand. This is how ushers stand a lot of times when they're greeting somebody strange in a church, by the way. A few weeks back in Tennessee, I think I mentioned this last night, right? A few weeks back, guy comes into a church in Tennessee, pulls a gun, starts to open fire. There was an usher there. He addressed him. I think every single usher on the planet, especially in the Catholic churches, should be instructed and trained on basic self-defense situations like this. Okay? As my security expert out in North Carolina, 30-year SWAT team training type security guy says, you as an usher are the outer layer of security in a church. You are dealing with one of the most vulnerable positions that there is, a church of a bunch of people there to worship. And if you haven't paid attention to the news enough to know that even in America, churches are getting attacked. And I'm not talking about just shootings. I'm talking about some priests are getting threats, some pastors are getting threats, people are coming in. Some Middle Eastern looking guys came into a church in Ohio, for example, about a year ago, started taking pictures during Mass. Nobody confronted them. Nobody walked over and said, excuse me, can I help you with something? What are you doing here taking pictures of the Mass? Can we step outside real quick? This isn't the right way to do this. You can do that to them, right? They waited till they left and were leaving in the parking lot before someone went over and said, hey, pal, what were you doing here? Oh, we were thinking about maybe joining the church. Okay, hey, that's great. Okay, these things are happening and we're afraid to confront them. Okay, let's say I'm a bad guy and he's an usher and he's in this position here. If I come in with my hands in my pocket, which by the way, you know what kills? Hands. You watch people's hands. Okay, someone walks in with their hand in their pocket, pay attention, because put your hands in your pocket. Let's say he's a bad guy, and he walks up, and I'm the usher, and I walk up like this, and I get in this proximity. Okay, let's pretend he has a knife. I want you to pull your hand out of your pocket and stab me with, real knife, okay? And let's see if I can block him before he actually would get to my gut. Okay, so whenever you're ready, go ahead and pull your hand out. As if fast, like you're trying to stab me, okay? Really go for it. Okay? Before I can get to him, he's already made contact. Okay, so first step would be, I'm not going to approach him that close. I'm getting in a better foot position here, so I'm going to posture like this. I'm not like this. Why is this bad? Go ahead and push my shoulders hard. No, hard, buddy. Come on, hard. Push my shoulders hard. Okay, like this. See? He falls back, right? Push me like that, okay? Okay, I'm going to step back, right? Now push me like that. You don't move as much, right? It's the base. We teach this on the DVD. It's called 80-20, 80% on your back leg, 20 on your front. That's kind of a Taekwondo stance, right? Marines call it basic warrior stance, fight stance, right? Okay, so I'm going to approach him like this. My hands are going to come up. Hey, is it okay? Can I help you with something? Non-threatening posture. It's not this. It's this. Now pull your hand out of your pocket and try to stab me, okay? Go ahead. Okay, you've got something there. What I'm doing here is I'm filling the space between weapon and vitals. If he gets through me, everybody else in the parish is a potential target. I'm the outer layer. This is one example of many scenarios you can give. But as men, we're built for this. If I'm giving this talk to a bunch of women, I guarantee you the women right now are going, ah. You men are making notes, yeah. And after I block the knife, I kick him in the groin, headbutt him, and knock him down. Right? And our big weightlifting friend standing back there, he's ready to pick him up and body slam him, right, pal? No, you. You know what I'm talking about. I observed you walking 30, 45 minutes, an hour ago. You see, you pay attention. You start training yourself to observe situations. I'm thinking, if everything hit the fan in this room right now, who could you turn to and rely on? I already know that Andrew here is former Marine. I already know that James is former Army. And our airborne buddy here. I mean, there are men in here that I've met just in the time I've been here who I'd look at and say, boom, and we move. Okay, it's called you're processing here, you're training here. Okay, so this is the worst stance. So I want you to do the 80-20 on me. And your hands are non-threatening because you're trying to diffuse a situation. And you're just going to come up and say, hey, pal, can I help you with something? Everything all right? Go ahead.
Hey, pal, everything all right?
Yeah, and I'm going to come at him. What's he going to do? His hands are already in position to do something. Okay, hands are down now, and he's standing like a very nice guy because we're all supposed to be so nice. Do the same thing. Ask me the same thing.
Hey, pal, can I help you with something?
Right? I'm already in on his face. And if I made that a throat punch right here, you feel that, don't you? It don't take much. Right there. Boom, and he's down. Okay, the point is, thanks, buddy. Nice job. Have a seat. Good job. So the point is, this is very basic. We do a lot of this on the DVD. I think your wives and your kids should know some of this basic stuff. A good posture to stand. This is a non-threatening stance. This is a fight stance. If I'm like this with someone, the guy's thinking, oh, it's on. If I'm like this, hey, pal, relax, everything's fine. But from here, I can strike. I can palm strike. I can palm strike to the side. I can go forehead and come in in the solar plexus or the sternum. Smack, smack. The palms are good weapons. Your wives, your daughters can use them. Sometimes they're better than a punch because a punch can hurt the wrist if you're not punching the right way. A palm, very unlikely, plus you've got a nice, wide, meaty target that can really strike hard. Plus, as some experts will say, bone against bone is dangerous. You can break your fingers if you're not toughened up for that. Palm against bone, much safer. Train your wives, train your daughters, train your sons how to stand right, 80-20, 80% back leg, 20 front, hands up to fill space between possible threat and your vitals, and be able to just diffuse a situation, and if you have to strike, palm strike into the face, into the throat, into the nose, to the side of the jaw, a lot of nerves there. The point is, this is training. It takes time. How long does it take to get good at this? You might get lucky if you do it once or twice and then you get attacked. You do it over and over periodically, you can become really good at it. I got a buddy down in Texas. He's an Aikido, Krav Maga, Taekwondo instructor. They were getting death threats to the priest in his parish. He formed a security team, all right? He's training up to 50 guys on a regular basis in a field outside the church. They come periodically, and he just puts them through basic training. Raise your hand if you are a self-defense instructor or know self-defense in general. Where's my brown belt guy? Where's my brown belt friend? There is Ron. He could do some of this very easily. Anybody here know self-defense reasonably well? Raise your hand. Okay, you got a handful of guys. Anybody know firearms training? Anybody know firearms training a little bit? Basics. Look at that, more of that. Okay, good. Anybody know medical, like CPR? How to stop a serious wound from bleeding out? Okay, good. Look at this. Your resources are right here in the room. Train each other. Do it through your parish. Do it through Knights of Columbus meetings. This does not have to be highfalutin and over the top. This DVD is as simple as it gets, but it's the basics. How to stand, how to block, how to make sure that if something's coming flying in on you and your hands are up, you might take some of that shot, but if your hand's there and that takes 50% of the shot, that's 50% less your head's gonna take, you might still be in the fight and have a chance to get out of there. Also to talk about how do you gain the advantage in a conflict. Tell your wife and children, blind them with something. Cup of coffee, bottle of water, have something in their hand in advance, all right? I think about this. I was at an event one time, and a guy came near my table. I was at just a table similar to this over here. I had my DVDs there. He was acting really weird. He came over by the table, and I thought, I'm not comfortable with the situation here, all right? And so I was right there by the table. My hands were by my DVDs. I put my hand on the stack of DVDs, and my first thought was, if this guy turns on me and flips in some way, I'm already coming up with a handful of DVDs in his face, and then I'm coming over at him to try to subdue it. This isn't a violent thing. This is a preparedness thing. Like that 22-year-old man who stopped the shooting in Tennessee from getting really out of hand. When he rushed the gunman, he confronted him physically. He took a pistol whipping. He went and got his gun, came back and held the gun on the man until the police showed up. 6 people were injured in the church, but nobody died in the church. 1 woman was killed out in the parking lot, sadly, but it could have been far worse if one man wouldn't have had some idea what to do. Now, in the situation, I'll wrap this up because I know we're about out of time here. In the situation that we've got in our world right now, we talked about the Rwandan genocide. We talked about what happened in World War II. I know we have this attitude of just trust Jesus and so forth, but how do you think the Lord would want us to respond to protect our loved ones if there's a crisis situation? Civil unrest like the Ferguson, Missouri riots, Baltimore. Anybody hear of Antifa? Antifa, anti-fascism, they call them Antifa. These people are violent and they're nuts, and they've been on mainstream media saying, we believe that violent action is necessary and called upon to make sure we get Trump out of the White House and get the country back in the right direction. This is a scary time because these people are planning on November 4th major riots and upheaval all over the country. Some of their paraphernalia and their propaganda say they want to start a civil war in America. Now, it's easy. A lot of people sit back and say, well, that'll never happen. That wouldn't happen in America. Well, folks, it's happened once before. But we think we're so far advanced from there. Well, guess what? We've legalized abortion since then. We've destroyed marriage since then. We've surgically altered the human body since then because we can't decide what gender we are. We're in a lot worse shape, morally speaking, now than we were back when the Civil War took place in many respects. Not all, but many. We had slavery back then, obviously slavery bad. But we're talking about something different now that we haven't had. Moral fiber has been slaughtered in this country. There are two things that hold a society together. One is the moral fiber of every individual in that society. If that moral fiber isn't active and isn't perpetuating from generation to generation, you have the second factor. And the second factor that holds a society together is rule of law. If rule of law is overwhelmed by numbers, like in a riot situation, or if rule of law is lax, such as we've seen in certain areas where we can't always know what's accurately happening with the law, then we are in a very dire situation. If it comes to that in our lifetime, and I'm more inclined to think that the potential of it is much greater than we realize, we have an obligation as Catholic men to bring the gospel to as many people as possible. And I'm wrapping this up on this. Our obligation as men to bring the gospel to as many people as possible does not stop with just the Word of God, the sacraments, and the rosary. It also carries into food, water, medicine, protection. You guys need to start communicating with each other, in my opinion, as to how you would band together in case something happened. 2 years ago, I started having a few meetings with some of my Catholic neighbors. Like 5 or 6 families would come over, we talk. We've only done this 5 or 6 times. Not a lot. We don't dwell on it, but we've talked enough about it that I know if everything hits the fan and turns sideways in society, I can count on them. If I'm out here and everything collapses and I can't get back home, I don't know what I'll do because I can't pump gas, but if I can't get back home, there are several families back home, men who have told me, Doug, we will watch out for your family. And they're armed and they're trained, they've got food and water, and they're not just gonna hunker down in the hills, they're gonna share it with as many people as they reasonably can while trying to take care of as many people as possible. This is what Catholics have done for 2,000 years. As a friend of mine said recently, this is the normal that used to be for Catholic men. It's become abnormal that we don't know how to take care of these things and we don't train each other in these things. I didn't get into it because of time, but this right here is my mini get-home or go bag or bug out bag. It's a small miniature version of what I keep in my Jeep at home. But I travel with this one. It's got basic things in there: water filter, tourniquet, basic bandages, med kit, basic simple things, eye protection, gloves, extra set of gloves. I don't go anywhere without the right kind of footwear when it comes to being stranded in a snowstorm or you gotta walk a certain distance. Tell me this, you get stuck in a snowstorm, does your wife have the right kind of shoes in the car to walk home? Most women don't. A lot of guys don't either. They wear tennis shoes or dress shoes. I say, I got 6-inch boots on all the time. I even have a black pair of these 6-inch kind of tactical boots that I wear to church. Goes well with a 3-piece suit. My wife thought that was kind of funny on Easter when she looked down and said, did you buy those? Are those your new church shoes? Yes, sweetheart. Okay, well. But she knows I'm ready. The point is, in this little doodad right here, I got a variety of things that could give me a good start. If I had to start walking back to Nebraska, I'd go to one of you, maybe I'd go to Andrew, say, Andrew, just loan me a pistol with a couple hundred rounds of ammo, and I'm going to start walking. Because, gentlemen, I'm getting back home to my family one way or another, even if I got to hoof it all the way. But I got a bag that at least get me started. Water filter, you can buy from Walmart for $20. I don't go anywhere without keeping this little tactical flashlight on me. $20 from Walmart, and a little tap light on it. It's good for blinding someone to gain advantage. You can smack them in the head with it too if you need to. Always keep a knife on me. Of course, these things get checked in the belly of the plane. Don't forget, and then when I get on the ground, I pull them out and strap it all on here, But I make sure I've got the basics that'll help me get a good start to get back to my family, and I train my family in the same thing. Gentlemen, this is not nuts. There are many of you out there who already have go bags, bug bags on Benton, bug out bags on Benton. Raise your hand if you got anything like this. Get home bag, bug out bag, med bag. Look at that. See, we're already doing it. We need to be sharing it with one another much more. Be spiritually and physically prepared as best you can. Instruct and train. Share it with others. Let's be Catholics that really help do what we can to help society sustain no matter what the crisis is that God may allow to come our way. You guys have been awesome. I appreciate being with you this weekend. If you want that DVD, I still got plenty left. God bless you. Thank you.